Crystal Tower information, Whiskey 2153 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Oak Tower, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying 5, runway 280 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, have your flight.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. My name is Maddie, and I'm here with my co-host, the Badger pilot, also known as Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Maddie.
And back from the dead, we have Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hi, I'm not quite dead yet.
But
I'm feeling much
you're
better.
back from the dead. You are now alive. You know,
I am.
necromancy and all that.
I'm alive and I'm live on the
He's
podcast.
only
You're
mostly
live.
dead.
This is
which
pre-recorded.
means partially alive.
Well, no one picked up the Monty Python reference, huh? Nobody?
No, I wasn't listening.
Not quite dead yet. I'm feeling much better.
Anyway.
Yes, I'm back from the dead. I had a bout of the flu, which then turned into pneumonia, and my voice is still not quite there, but I'm feeling much better.
Did you get
I
turned
don't need
into
to bring
a
up
newt?
your dead. I'm back. I did not get turned into a newt at all.
That's good.
My voice is a little froggy, but that's something different. That's a different reptile, I think.
Though that's an amphibian.
It's irrelevant.
God. This just in, frogs are reptiles. Just another riveting piece of content in the Flying
Just
Midwest
whatever.
podcast.
I can just cut that if I don't want to sound stupid, but at this point.
It's we've already devolved so hard.
Anyway, how did recording go without me? Did you two fare all right?
We feared. Okay, we did well.
We did fine.
I mean, I was in and out monitoring your activities. I had no voice, so I couldn't
He
talk.
was like a ghost. He would be there sometimes. He'd type something snarky out in the show notes, and we just kind
Yeah,
of.
because I wasn't even on video with you guys.
No, he refused to show his face, but for one moment.
But for one moment at the very end, which I cut from the actual episode. So
Well, we still have that audio, don't we?
we do, and I'm going to play it right now.
So I did see a video on Facebook of a news reporter in New Orleans just walking around the French Quarter talking about the snow. And here comes a guy just walking around in shorts and no shirt. And the reporter asks, "Aren't you cold?" And the guy just yells, "I'm from Wisconsin." And he's like, "There you go."
Didn't I send that to you?
Oh, you did. Yeah, that's right. Jim's back. He's alive. Yes. Jim sent that to me.
It's too funny.
All right.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Anyways, Jim has his voice back, which means we should probably get out of
Yeah,
here. So
we've
thanks so
inspired-
much for listening.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for continuing to listen to our silliness.
And until next time,
See ya.
see you.
See ya.
I sounded like death, so I cut it. But I was given grief later, so now it is in this episode, so you can all enjoy or appreciate or whatever it is that you're going to do with that little audio snippet. But there it is. It exists.
It was very entertaining.
Just a very real heartfelt see out of me at the end of that episode.
I thought it was fitting for the way you were feeling about everything.
I felt so awful. It was not a good time. But I think you guys did fantastic without me. You don't even need me here. So
We actually kept surprisingly on track. I was genuinely surprised.
Oh, no, I
at
was listening.
our performance. I don't know how we managed.
I didn't listen to the
I
whole
think it's because we had to be adults, and we're like, okay, we've got to make a podcast. Let's do it.
who is the adult in the room? Jim's not here.
I didn't think we were on track at all. I thought it was a typical devolution of just random banter that made Jim do a lot more work in the editing process.
Did it or did it not turn into a viable episode?
Well, yeah.
There was
not because of us. It's because you were homesick from work, so you had nothing better to do than to sit in your basement and edit podcasts.
Let's look at it this way. Any landing you can walk away from is a good one. We walked away from that episode. It was a good one. Obviously, in the spirit of that, I have done zero training. I've done zero flying. I've done no CFI prep work. I was just sick. So,
have you really done zero flying, though? I saw your plane was doing pattern work the other day.
that doesn't mean it was me.
I know, but I was hopeful.
Why are you stalking us?
I'm not stalking you. I just, every now and then, look up tail numbers of people that I know.
It may have been one of my. It was obviously one of my.
Okay, maybe it's stalking.
But I will say that even with the illness, I will probably not be flying my plane for quite a while. It is going down for engine overhaul.
That sounds wonderful.
Sounds like long time.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I'll put out there. And Badger, I don't know if you do this as a sole owner or not, but we very intentionally within our little ownership group, we charge ourselves for every hour we fly. So that when we do that, we're putting into a maintenance fund and we're putting it into an overhaul fund. So we split, say just for easy numbers, just $30 per hour or whatever. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. $15 over here, $15 over there. And over time, so say you're going to 2,000 hours. I mean, that's going to be money that you've invested into that along the way. And depending on how you want to invest it, you put it in some sort of savings account that maybe it's a higher interest savings account. You're setting yourself up a little bit better as opposed to just, here's this huge bill for an engine overhaul. So that's what we've done. So it's, yes, we'll probably end up putting some money into it still outside of that fund, but I think in doing that, we've set ourselves up pretty well to be in a good position that this isn't going to hurt that much. So the only thing that's going to hurt, I think, is how long it's going to take to get done, because the engine shop on our field is backed up just because there is so much demand for them. So, but I'm fortunate to also belong to a flying club, so it's not like I'll be completely absent of aviation. I will just start flying out of the club more often.
And what's the tail number for that club plane so I can stalk you?
I'm not telling you. It's a plethora of aircraft, actually, and I'm going to probably I'm just going to blur it out in all of my videos that I make from that aircraft.
Perfect.
So you can't follow me. And every time that I say a call sign on the radio in my videos, it will just be bleeped out, like I'm swearing on cops.
Like overdub a fake call, like Midwest One or something like that.
You'll never find me. How about you two? Let's talk about other people's aviation.
I am, as of the 3rd of February 2025, I am 0.4 hours away from 1,500 hours.
No kidding. Good for you.
It was supposed to be I flew last night and we were going to stay in the pattern for a little longer, but my coworker decided to call it quits. So,
no.
Yeah.
It's like 2 more laps.
How
I know.
dare they?
And I'm not about to pay $15 more just to take the plane up and do it. So
you should have commandeered that aircraft.
I know.
Squawked 7,500 and gotten your 0.4 hours.
No,
Or at least idled on the ramp a little longer.
I know. I'm sure we didn't know. To be fair, we didn't know until we had parked and I signed his logbook because I was giving him double I training and stuff. I signed his logbook and I put it in mine. I'm like, are you kidding me?
OMG.
Literally 0.4, like not even a whole hour. Like, oh, so close.
Scratch everything I said about commandeering the flight, squawking 7,500 and then 0.4. You didn't know. It's fine.
I actually heard a story once about a student pilot who needed to build his solo time, and rather than just like doing a couple extra laps in the pattern, asked for the longest taxi possible so he could get more time. Like, why are you even here?
Hey. That's so funny.
The only person you're cheating in that situation is yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't had any like big adventures for flying, but my landings have been garbage. So I went out on a pretty gusty crosswind day and I figure if I can land with a gust factor of 15 to 20 for a crosswind component, I can land anywhere. And I mean, they weren't like super silky smooth, but I didn't bounce any. By the end, I was actually getting a little bit of a stall light right before touchdown. And yeah, 15 to 20 knot gust crosswind component, so I felt good about that. So
Good.
that's been my
That
flying.
sounds
Just
like not a fun day.
it was fun when I shut down and realized what I accomplished. But that's about
I'll
it.
give you that. I'll give you that.
But it was a lot of work.
Oh man,
Well, and
the rest of it sounds like a lot.
it was plus or minus 10 to 15 the entire flight, 10 to 15 knots, so plenty of wind shear.
Yeah, you're working.
I was working hard. Let's see. At one point, I had to do a short approach, so I did a power off 180 because there was a jet inbound that they were trying to keep me in front of. There was a Cirrus that came in that had a sick kid that was puking in the back, so there was extending out for him. It was a busy, chaotic day, and there were like 4 of us sharing the pattern. And then I went back to Capitol and did a power off 180 there. So it was a busy, fun day. But
Well, with all that fun and exciting banter out of the way, should we get into some news?
yeah, let's
Should
do it.
probably do that.
Take it away, whoever.
I'll kick it off. We'll go out to Nebraska for this one, where the Nebraska Department of Transportation apparently hands out aviation-related awards to their airports every year. This is kind of a cool thing that I think we should adopt, if not officially state by state. I think,
On the podcast.
yeah, on the podcast. I think we should do it.
Okay.
So, as an example, here's what Nebraska does. The Western Nebraska Regional Airport was named the 2024 Airport of the Year for its exceptional service, community engagement, and regional impact. The 2024 Project of the Year award went to the Central Nebraska Regional Airport for their series of airfield lighting and navigation upgrades. And the 2024 Airport of the Year is, drumroll please,
Oh, I think there's a button for that. Hang on. Let me see. Hold that thought. I think I got it. Hold. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I found it. That's drum jokes. That's not a drum roll. Oh, there you go. Got the right one.
Western Nebraska Regional Airport in Scottsbluff.
Good for them.
So congratulations,
Good for them.
Western
Good.
Nebraska. 2024 Airport of the Year for Nebraska.
Yay, Nebraska.
So I think...
Oh, Maddie's back.
I think
Hi. I just... Oh my God.
I found toys.
Oh no. All right. Because we can't get enough of drones, air taxis, and electric aircraft, here is Minnesota.
We have had a lot of drone stories,
We
haven't
have
we? In the last
lots of
couple
drone stories.
episodes.
And everybody knows my affinity for electric air taxis. The Minnesota Department of Transportation is actually seeking input from the public on the future of electric aviation in the state of Minnesota. They are currently collecting information from the Minnesota Electric Aviation Network, or the MEAN study. They couldn't have... And this will help government officials identify the airports that are around the state. So we have 133 public use airports. They will identify the airports that are suitable to support electric aircraft operations. These results will highlight those places and the opportunities that exist for said aircraft. 124 airports support general aviation in the state of Minnesota, which is a lot. Officials are hoping to get responses from pilots who use all these airports, also airport managers, sponsors, different businesses located at these airports, and also the manufacturers of electric aircraft, batteries, powertrains, charging solutions, etc. So actually, if you are interested, MnDOT is hosting a number of in-person meetings to gather input. So I will list off a couple of them here. If you are interested, at the time that this is coming out, there are 2 more, one in Duluth and one in Rochester. The Duluth one is occurring at Duluth International Airport on the 18th. And the Rochester one is occurring on Friday, February 21st at the MnDOT District 6 headquarters in Rochester. So if you have any questions about these meetings you want to attend, or you want to request accommodations, or you want to give your input, you can contact the MnDOT Advanced Air Mobility Program Manager.
All right, keeping with the drone theme and connecting the drone activity in Indiana to the bird flu. There have been reports of drones flying fairly consistently now over farmers' fields that have been directly impacted by the bird flu, and those fields and farms are actually under quarantine right now. It's become so much of a concern now that the Indiana Board of Animal Health has had to actually start speaking about the risk of these drones spreading the bird flu even more.
That cannot be real.
That is real. What it's saying is some of these drones are actually landing on farm roofs, sometimes on farms' property and all of that. I don't know why drones are touching down on buildings, on land, especially areas that are quarantined because of this bird flu. And I guess I'm not the only one wondering what these drones are here, but to the point where now the FAA and the FBI are reminding people that it is a crime to shoot down drones or chase them in your cars. So there's, yeah.
Chasing a drone in your car, that would be entertaining to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And
don't do it.
Yeah, not that I'm here to condone people chasing drones in cars or shooting them down, but I can kind of see where they're coming from. These farmers, this is their livelihood. And if these drones are interrupting them and potentially
or spreading
or spreading the bird flu, yeah, I can certainly empathize with where they're coming from on that one. So
there you go.
If you are flying drones in Indiana and apparently on the border of Indiana and Ohio as well, please don't be flying them over these quarantine farm fields. I don't know what you're thinking of doing, but if you are a farmer in Indiana and for some reason also listening to our podcast, just a friendly reminder that shooting down a drone is a felony that's punishable up to 20 years in federal prison. To all of your drone operators, you're welcome, Maddie, because let's face it, if you're flying a drone over this and landing it on a quarantine farm field, you ain't no drone pilot. You're an operator at best. So
I think this brings up a legitimate question that needs to be addressed right now. Should this then not be called the drone flu?
Oh.
If it is being spread amongst the birds, drone to drone, by landing on these farms and they spread it to the birds, I think that there could be a case made for calling this the drone flu.
I like it, honestly.
I like it. Well, I don't like the spreading of the bird flu, but I like the
No, I don't like the spreading of it either, but as long as we're in this space, and we can call bird flu has been used. Drone flu,
that's new.
Yeah, there you go.
While shooting down drones is not an event we condone, we do condone some events. Take it away, Jim.
We do. We're going to talk about some real airplanes now. Powerful fighter jets that elegantly maneuver in the skies with only a few feet separating each wingtip, directly from the Thunderbirds website. That's right, folks. I'm going to go through the quick nitty-gritty of the show schedules of both the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels in the Midwest, because their show season starts next week. So, all right, and I'll preface this when I say they start in a few weeks. Obviously, they're not going to be up in Minnesota flying in February, so they will have some stops in way warmer places before they get to us. However, let's start with the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. Their first Midwestern show will be May 10th and 11th in Toledo, Ohio. You can then catch them next in Dayton, Ohio, June 21st and 22nd. In Battle Creek, Michigan, July 4th through the 6th. Fort Wayne Air National Guard Base in Indiana, July 12th and 13th. Then a number of stops in August in the Midwest, the 9th and 10th in Gary, Indiana, the 16th to the 17th in Chicago, Illinois, 23rd and 24th in Davenport, Iowa, and wrapping up August in Cleveland, Ohio, August 30th and September 1st. So unfortunately, and much to my disappointment, they will not be in Minnesota this year, or Wisconsin for that matter. However, they're in the Midwest. Maybe they'll fly by Oshkosh again this year. Who knows?
All right, let's hear the Blues.
Now, I know that you were just bragging about the Blues. Unfortunately, they will not be in the Midwest until June 21st and 22nd in Bellevue, Michigan at the Bellevue Air Show. June 28th and 29th at the Chippewa Valley Air Show in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Woo-hoo.
July 5th and 6th at the Duluth Air and Aviation Expo in Duluth, Minnesota. July 19th and 20th, the Milwaukee Air and Water Show. They'll be present for those festivities. In August, they will be in Columbus, Ohio at the Columbus Air Show, August 23rd and 24th. And finally, wrapping up their Midwestern portion of their tour for 2025, they'll be at the Branson Wings of Pride Air Show, August 30th through September 1st. There will be obviously more air shows to talk about as the summer approaches, but as the two larger military teams have given out their schedule, I thought it'd be appropriate to share it with all of you.
Well, speaking of air shows, we have our final interview from Oshkosh, the premier air show. And
that was a great segue.
Thank you. And Maddie, would you like to tell us about who we have in our final Oshkosh interview?
Absolutely. We are excited to bring on native Midwesterner Nick Stoley, who is an aviation extraordinaire. He is part of the Commemorative Air Force, so that's where we met up with him under the wings of Miss Mitchell, the B-25. He is also,
cool.
I know, right? He's also he's an airline pilot, so he flies jets all around the United States. And he does everything else aviation that he possibly can. His goal is to, and I quote, fly everything that he can. So without further ado, let us get into our interview with Nick. Thanks for joining us. Well, welcome everyone to a very special edition of the Flying Midwest podcast, live here at Oshkosh Air Venture. And here we have Nicholas Stoley from the great state of Minnesota. He's a very diversified pilot with an excellent repertoire. And we are actually standing under the wing of the B-25 Mitchell that he flies. So we are excited to talk to you. Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to this. So
Good. Well, be careful what you wish for. We're going to start off with what we call our Fast Five questions. So it is a series of questions, just kind of warm us all up and kind of break the ice a bit. So just wherever your gut reaction is to the question, and you can elaborate a little bit if you want. So the only thing we try to avoid is Piper Cub speed. So, okay. All right, first question. Favorite plane you've seen at AirVenture, and it doesn't have to be just this year.
Favorite airplane I've seen at AirVenture? I think maybe that's, again, having so many different interests within aviation, that's a really, really hard question. The mothership to the space program. The what did they call that?
Stratolauncher?
Yes, yeah, that one. That whole Rutan project I was always fascinated with back then, and to see that thing in person was very, very cool. So, and a lot of the other Rutan things like the Boomerang and all that too. So I think that's probably the favorite thing.
Yeah, those Rutan designs are really unique, so it's hard not to like those.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
All right, question number 2. Best kept secret of AirVenture?
Say the flush toilets in one of the I can't remember which exhibit hangar it is, but one of them has flush toilets, and sometimes you just really want that, and knowing where that is probably a best kept secret.
I don't keep it a secret if I were you.
You want the lines nice and short, yeah.
So maybe people can go on a scavenger hunt and look for it on their own. So that's question number 3. Worst weather experience you've had at AirVenture over the years?
This was, I think, this must have been 2021. I think it was the year after the Oshkosh that wasn't, which actually came to Oshkosh that time, 2020. But 2021, there was that severe weather that was coming through, and it was very interesting. It wound up not being as bad as expected. Thankfully, there were tornadoes west of Oshkosh, but nothing that hit the field directly. However, if you were here at that time, people had sold Oshkosh out of bubble wrap and moving blankets.
Mm-hmm.
So there were warbirds all around that had bubble wrap and moving blankets on it. The place cleared out. There were people going elsewhere. Miss Mitchell that we're sitting under right now, she went back to Minnesota at that time.
Okay.
And I think the T6 stayed here, the SNJ stayed here. But that was a very harrowing experience just for the suspense of what's going to hit the field.
Well, especially worried about how is this going to impact the aircraft as far as are we going to get hail on it?
Exactly.
That would be a mess.
I'm thinking all of the insurance underwriters were holding their breath that day too.
I bet. We've heard too that there was a carpet outlet around here that's sold out as well.
Quick box carpet pad, absolutely. Yep. I think I saw that too, and lots of tape and lots of saran wrap.
Question number 4: favorite food or beverage on the grounds?
I haven't found any spectacular beverages. I'd be open to input on that one. Other than the SOS Brothers beer tent, that at night, that's a great place to find favorite beverages. But somebody that I think started coming a couple years ago is the cheese curd tacos.
Yes,
Like an hour ago.
Did you really?
I did.
Thanks for inviting us.
You were gone. You were finding batteries.
And I am yet to go this year, but I'm definitely going to go. And I think they got promoted because they were down on the South 40, and I think they got promoted to home-built camping. So
Is it just I never heard that is, but that's the rumor on the street.
But now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably where I'm going to be later.
That's going to be a stop after I leave here, I think, before our next interview. So good. All right, and our final Fast 5 question. If you could meet anyone in aviation, dead or alive, who would it be?
just now learning what that means. I think it'd probably be Richard Bach. He was very inspirational in my early aviation days. So I think I'd like to have a chat with him. So,
That's awesome.
Reading the book Biplane and Jonathan Livingston Seagull and all that, I think that I'd really love to have a conversation with him. So.
I don't think we've ever had that one before.
Yeah.
We all instinctively looked up again as airplanes flew over, which has been happening for days, but we still look.
Pilots look at airplanes.
Well, thanks for playing along with the Fast 5 questions. We're going to jump into our interview now. Who wants to take this away?
All right.
I can take it.
All right, have at it.
So, Nick, what got you into aviation at the very beginning?
I honestly have no idea. I don't come from an aviation family, but I have been hyper-focused on aviation my entire life. So much so my parents love telling the story that my kindergarten teacher asked what I wanted to learn that year, and I told her I wanted to learn how to fly helicopters. So
Did your kindergarten teacher know how?
She did not.
Okay.
But she would probably be pretty impressed to know that I have subsequently learned how to fly helicopters. So it did eventually happen. I did, and I remember I had a helicopter ride the summer before kindergarten. That's one of my earliest memories. I have a picture of my dad and I in front of that helicopter. It was at a fair in Iowa. But I was dragging my parents to the helicopter, so it wasn't just like an introduction into aviation in this helicopter ride. I wanted that helicopter ride way before, doing it. So I don't know where historically my aviation interest came from. It's just what I've always wanted to do.
Sure.
So you do a lot of things. You've flown a lot of stuff. Could you tell us a little bit about what you have done, like just about your repertoire in aviation?
If you've ever seen the hashtag Fly All the Things, I've kind of taken that to heart. And it's just really kind of my mentality of aviation in general. I would, I love flying the warbirds now. Mm-hmm. I love flying old airplanes, tail draggers, the helicopters. And I've made it a pursuit to basically get all of the pilot's licenses. I don't want all of the type ratings. That's a game you can't win. So I'm not in a big rush to get a bunch of jet type ratings or anything else, but I want to fly everything I possibly can. And I've generally succeeded as far as licenses are concerned. Single engine, multi-engine, land planes and seaplanes, helicopters, gyroplanes, gliders, I can instruct in pretty much everything. The license anyway, having the experience to actually instruct in helicopters and gyroplanes is a different thing, but the license box is checked. The goal this year was hot air balloon. I had been talking with an instructor in the Minnesota area, and he's close to me, geographically very desirable to get lessons from him. We had discussed lessons, and he doesn't really want to fly this year. And it's an interesting reason because we've had a lot of rain, and you see it flying around general aviation, low altitude in Minnesota. There's a lot of water-logged fields and everything else. And he told me, it's like, well, farmers these days, half of their fields are water. They're going to lose most of their yield. They're not going to be super happy about a hot air balloon landing in their field. So he's like, I'm gonna refrain from training until maybe the fall after the harvest. So we'll see if I make that goal happen. I would love to. I know I'm going to make the goal happen. Whether it happens this year or not is the question. And then after that, the other goal is powered lift rating. That's powered lift category is Harriers, Osprey, tilt rotors. They're all in that category. Also, those new urban air mobility vehicles, those Jobies, and I can't remember the other ones, but they're all being categorized as powered lift as well. So I think that rating is going to get a lot more accessible to a lot of people, and I'm hoping to get that rating in the future. The real goal is to get it before the Kings, John and Martha King.
What about one of those jetpacks so that it's just you and...
I would fly that, absolutely. Yeah, I would fly that. Another thing I'd like to get into is paramotors. The thing, I made the goals, it was kind of arbitrary, but I made the goals FAA licenses. So there's no powered paraglider license. That's not an FAA license. That's right. The association have their own rating system, but it's not a pilot certificate that the FAA has.
Sure. Okay.
So I want to fly those things, and I want to skydive, I want to do all that stuff, but it hasn't taken the same priority as just getting the ticket, I suppose.
So you've made aviation your career. It's not just a hobby for you. You've made it a career. So talk to us a bit about that. Like, you're flying with an airline. Is it a major carrier? And I mean,
I'm at Sun Country Airlines.
Okay.
I'm a 737 captain out of Minneapolis. Often people ask if I'm planning to move on from there, and I kind of go back and forth, but it's actually a really great place to be, and I'm enjoying it, so I'm not currently pursuing being anywhere else.
Sure. What led you to Sun Country of the options that are out there?
At the time, I'm Minnesota native, Iowa native, and then Minnesota in my late teens and early 20s. And then I joined the Air Force. I moved out east to the Philadelphia area. And I worked at Air Wisconsin when I was on the East Coast. That's when it was an East Coast airline. I think 5 domiciles were all East Coast at that time with Air Wisconsin. So I lived in Philadelphia, got hired at Air Wisconsin, and I did that. I had applied various places. Sun Country called, and the thought of moving back to Minnesota was somewhat attractive to me. So, and at that time, commuting was hard with Sun Country. Okay. So, moving to Minnesota was kind of the option there. And so I just moved back home, and when I got hired at Sun Country.
Well, nice.
Clearly, you're in pursuit of every rating possible,
Right.
which is awesome. And some of those include type ratings. Obviously, you're typed in the 737, which is cool and all, but you also are involved with the Commemorative Air Force of Minnesota. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I got involved with Commemorative Air Force. Must have been about 2018, 2019. Okay. And it was actually a fellow Sun Country pilot that got me interested in it. Having flown out of South St. Paul Airport before, that's where Commemorative Air Force Minnesota Wing is, I had seen them. I'd seen the airplanes, and I always thought it was kind of unobtainable. I always thought it was kind of not a world I was going to be able to get into, in a very exclusive club. And then I flew with a captain at Sun Country that did fly with Commemorative Air Force, and okay, that helps too.
To be clear, we're not going to edit this out.
Yeah, we're just going to wait for the nice Pratt & Whitney 1340s taxi by.
Look at that kid in the back, just waving to everybody. Living his best life right now.
So these are all T6s, SNJs, Harvards. That's the same kind of airplane I flew into Oshkosh. I actually we were at Janesville, Wisconsin before coming up here. We were given rides, and I did about 5 rides, and some young, some old, but very elated passengers. They were very happy to have taken those rides, and that's always rewarding for me to see the smile on people's faces when you give them a ride in one of these old airplanes.
So many airplanes at these air shows.
Just a few.
You're talking about
So Commemorative Air Force Minnesota Wing, I was just thinking, I had seen them. I'd seen Miss Mitchell and the BT-13, the SNJ taxiing around South St. Paul where I flew out of, and I just always thought it was kind of unobtainable to do that. Humans didn't do that, I guess. And then I flew with a captain at Sun Country that he kind of got me introduced into it and thought that I would be a pretty good fit. And then I started showing up, and that's really kind of how you get into it. You just start showing up, pay your dues, literally, and you pay your dues to national, pay your dues to the teaming, and keep volunteering, make your name known, express your interest, and eventually get into one of the airplanes. You do have to sponsor the airplanes as well. As an example, it's a one-time sponsorship. Okay. I think, if I remember right, Miss Mitchell, I think, is $3,500 one time. I think the SNJ is the same, $3,500. There's some that are $1,500, but that's just a one-time thing. The pilot requirements are not as steep as you would think. The tail wheel requirements aren't as many hours as you would think. So it is something that people can certainly get into, and if they have that interest, I would say find a local commemorative Air Force unit and see what you can do for them.
Well, I think that you raised a good point. I think that there are a lot of pilots out there who see these fly in and out of their local airports or stop at an event like this, and they think that is unattainable. So it's interesting to hear that there is a pathway.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, there are humans flying these things.
But it's more than just the financial buy-in, so to speak, to get in. There's a lot of legwork, I assume, and elbow grease that goes into keeping these planes maintained. And
absolutely.
Can you talk about what sort of the team does to keep everything going and what else the CAF does?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm going to say, I mean, it's all about money. These things, it's not all about money, but that is usually the primary factor, because they are extraordinarily expensive to operate and maintain, and it's only getting more expensive.
Right.
Other than that, I'll make the comment that, I'm a pilot with the Commemorative Air Force. I fly these things. That's not where the miracle is. These things, they're all, even this Miss Mitchell here, some people might be offended by me saying this, but I call it a quirky Seneca. It's not an overly challenging airplane to fly, I don't think.
Okay.
But there's some interesting traits with it that would go beyond what a Piper Seneca is. But other than that, it's kind of like that. The SNJ, the same thing. It's a very straightforward, relatively easy tail dragger to fly. The real miracle, the real amazing thing that happens with the CAF is keeping these things flying. The mechanics, the people finding parts, people restoring these things. That's where the amazing thing is, to keep them in the air.
Can you talk a bit about the overall mission of the Commemorative Air Force for those who might not be familiar?
It's basically to inspire the next generation. It's to remember the old generation and to just express gratitude for them as well.
Great.
And to bring these things to places where people can see them.
Yeah.
So if you had to put a number on it, how many different types of airplanes have you flown throughout your career?
I've had discussions with friends on what a different type is.
Fair enough.
And I can tell you universally it's way over 100 different types. The exact number, I have no clue. And how to define it, I have no clue.
Sure.
Is a PA-28... Piper Cherokee PA-28 150. Would you count PA-28 151 Warrior 2? Is that the same type? Is a 7 KCAB Citabria the same as an 8 KCAB Decathlon? Would you count that the same? So it's hard to define, but I know it's well over 100.
Wow. Do you have a favorite?
I'm not sure I do. Every airplane's got a different mission. It depends on what I want to do that day. If I'm looking up and I'm seeing these beautiful cumulus clouds at 5,000 to 7,000 feet, and it's clear blue sky beyond that, I want to be in a glider, because under every one of those cumulus clouds is a rising column of air. If it's an event like Oshkosh where there's opportunities to fly in formation and that kind of stuff, then I'd like to be in a warbird. If it's a really hot day, it'd be nice to be in a seaplane and go chill on the water for a little while. So it just depends on the mission, and I can't really say I could choose one.
It's like picking your favorite kid.
Yeah.
Right. When you have over 100 kids.
Yep.
Is Miss Mitchell and the
SNJ?
The SNJ, are those both? You fly them both?
I fly them both.
Do you fly any other ones?
No, I am awaiting training in. We're referring to Commemorative Air Force, obviously.
Yes,
I have training letters, and I'm awaiting training in the L5 Sentinel, which is a Stinson liaison aircraft, and the BT-13, which is the BT-13 is a lot like the SNJ, just fixed landing gear.
Sure.
Conceptually very similar. In fact, the official name of a T6 is the AT6 Texan. So BT, it's a BT-13 basic trainer, AT6 advanced trainer. So it was the progression. So I'm kind of going backwards from the AT6 to the BT-13. And actually, Minnesota Wing is getting a Stearman as well. Also, it'll be the PT-17, their primary trainer. So we'll have that. And we also have a PT-22. Training letter in that, I don't really anticipate flying that anytime soon. I'm about 220 pounds, and that leaves me about, I think, 120 pounds for an instructor. So it's gonna be a challenge for every instructor to recheck out on that. Yeah. but the again, awaiting training in the BT-13 and the L5, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And again, I forget if I've mentioned it, but I haven't flown Miss Mitchell yet this year. One of the challenges is being able to corner an instructor sometimes. And everybody, this is all volunteer work. People have full-time jobs and families, and it's hard to corner them to get them into the airplane to get you current or to get some instruction in the plane. So that's a challenge with this stuff too. So.
Is there any specific history with either of these aircraft that you want to share?
The interesting thing with the SNJ is it is an SNJ T6 SNJ, meaning it's actually a post-World War II T6. It was built in 1945. Okay. And it started life in the Navy. The Navy designation of a T6 is an SNJ, so that's why it was an SNJ. And then it went to the Air Force, where it was a T6. And then it returns back to returned back to the Navy, so it was an SNJ again. And really, I don't think there were any very specific modifications between the two. Well, I guess there may have been, because the SNJ, it's got a .30 caliber machine gun on it, and that was for training, gunnery training, that kind of stuff. We're also working on getting the correct one. It's up on the instrument panel, going forward through the propeller. It is another .30 caliber, and that should be on there too to be correct. But we'll get that eventually, I think. After it left the Navy, that I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was a Reno racer for a while. So, and then the Commemorative Air Force bought it after being a Reno racer, and we've been bringing it back to the status of a SNJ Navy trainer.
Okay.
So, the other significance, we're out of South St. Paul, Minnesota, and the steerman that we're having restored to South St. Paul, Minnesota funding field was a Navy training base in World War II. It's actually where George H.W. Bush learned to fly out of.
Oh, sure.
And we're actually in a World War II hangar. CAF Minnesota is in one of the historic hangars. So bringing a steerman back, and an N2S steerman, again, Navy designation is different from the Army Air Corps designation. Having that on the field is going to be really cool and historic, because it's just very appropriate for the field. Miss Mitchell's history, I'm really afraid to start talking about, because I know I'll mess some things up. But this is not the original Miss Mitchell. It was a 1944 production B-25J that we made to look like Miss Mitchell, and the reason for that is because we had a member in the 1970s that was the crew chief on Miss Mitchell, so we restored the airplane because of that. With that said, it's actually got the nose art. It's either Ray or Roy Kowalik, and forgive me for not remembering his first name, but he's the artist for the nose art on the left side, and he came to paint this one too. So it's a so it's not the original nose art, just this original artist.
Gotcha. That's cool though.
It is really cool. In fact, when we brought Mr. Kowalik to do that, he did a number of the other artwork, nose art that he did for other people. I think I can't remember what he did. He was like an electrician or like a radio mechanic, I believe, on the base. But when you demonstrate that you're good at nose art, then everybody finds you to do the nose art. Sure. So he reproduced a lot of the stuff that he did, and up in our the wing hangar is more artwork, more reproduction nose art that he did. So that's very cool. When you visit the hangar, you can see that, and it's neat to see.
Super cool.
That's a lot of neat history to be able to bring him back to do that stuff. That's
exactly. We're having her judged this year, so we're crossing our fingers that she might get an award.
I think the first has just left too. Oh, really? Were they not here?
I saw him walk by.
It's the first year in a few years that we've polished her. It is a monumental task to polish an airplane of this size. So that's one thing we did over the winter. And she's real pretty and shiny for it.
Oh, sure is.
What was one of the questions you skipped? It had to do with airline flying, and
I think I just said airlines.
Was that the dream? That was kind of the only question I really had about it.
Okay. Was being an airline pilot the dream? Actually, no. I never intended on being an airline pilot.
Really?
Yeah. I loved aviation. I loved general aviation. Mm-hmm. And airline flying to me was like, why in the heck would I want to go fly for hours on end on autopilot? Now that I'm doing it, it is the best job I could possibly have.
Oh, really?
It enables me to do these things. For some reason, insurance carriers think being an airline pilot, it makes you insurable and a whole bunch of other things. So it's been advantageous for me to fly types I'm not familiar with, where I could just say, this is the time I have in similar types, but also have, all this airline experience, and they're okay, go ahead. So, but no, I never ever planned on being an airline pilot again. Just like, why would I want to do that? But it has been an amazing experience, and it's been awesome. To that point, if the focus is just being an airline pilot, I'm not sure you're going to have the fulfillment in your career that you think you're going to have. I think that the people that find the most fulfillment in that career are the people that are extremely enthusiastic about aviation, the people that are here at Oshkosh. So, whether that's inspiration for some or not, I do think that, and also the people like me that were thinking that they don't want to be an airline pilot. They're like, well, I just want to play with the little planes. There's no reason for me to be an airline pilot. I think it might be worth revisiting that and seeing what you can get with that career and how it'll be an advantage to your other flying.
I like it. So what is your aviation unpopular opinion?
Unpopular opinion with aviation.
Hot takes and pet peeves are also welcome.
Well, you know what? I was part of a Facebook discussion recently.
Oh.
Yeah. It had to do with basically the overarching mentality of this conversation was the place of technology in aviation, right?
Sure.
There's a mentality that the technology is going to replace what your obligations are already. Specifically, with this specific conversation, it had to do with, well, why should I, as a generalization, why should I have to look outside when traffic should be on my iPad? And if you're not just being on my iPad...
Oh, I saw your comment on this one.
if you're not being displayed on my iPad, well, you should be, right? And for me, we've heard discussions about the children with the magenta line and all that stuff, right? I have the iPad, I have the Stratus, I use it, it is awesome. But I recognize that is not going to absolve me from my responsibilities of looking outside and seeing on traffic. I embrace technology, I love it, but it's not the end all. It's not everything I can do. I can still draw a line on a chart. In fact, even be above and beyond the private pilot and commercial skill level. I've learned ways that you can draw a line on a chart in a cockpit, and it's this many miles, and it took this many minutes and seconds to do this, and it's this length on my pen, so that means I can just multiply that out, and now I know my estimated time of arrival just based off how many little segments of the pen it is. If the world ends and I lose all of my navigation, I feel like I can still do that. I was going to say, I'm just very flattered that you all asked me to come on the show with you all, and I appreciate it, and hopefully I've inspired a few people, or maybe made some people consider some other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
You bet.
Well, thank you again, Nick, for being part of this goofy little podcast that we have. We had a great time having you on, and we hope to reconnect with you sometime soon.
I'm just glad that we were able to recover the audio.
Me too.
And I think that was funny in the last episode when Badger commented about how the Commemorative Air Force restores these vintage aircraft, and we had to restore his interview.
Yeah, so that is why it took this long to get this interview out, because we thought it was lost to time, and we were literally the day of the interview.
Yeah.
I had set everything up with Nick, and Jim said, no, call it off. I found the audio.
I, to this day, have no idea what I did to make that work, because 2 of the audio files were just gone. And I said, let me try a couple of things. And I just screwed around, and I'm like, oh, wow, they're there. Awesome. So take it for what it is.
Great job, Jim. And thank you again to Nick. We hope to have you on again soon to talk about all things aviation.
Yeah, and if any of our listeners are interested in learning more about the Miss Mitchell, the EAA's podcast, The Green Dot, actually did an interview with other members of the CAF talking about Miss Mitchell. So we saved telling you about it until after you listen to our podcast. So now that you're done with that, go
You can
check
listen
out
to a
the
real
green
podcast.
dot and yeah, and go check out the green dot and listen to their episode as well.
And get connected with your local commemorative Air Force wing.
Well, that is our last of our canned interviews from AirVenture 2024. I think it's fitting because I literally this weekend booked the Flying Midwest podcast crash pad for the week. I also will say that there's a couple of things we're working on that I think could be really exciting this year for AirVenture. I will not spoil it any further than that. I think we can have a lot of fun this year.
Oh, yeah. No matter where I'm at, I have determined I will take the next 2 Christmases and I will work my rear end off if I can go to Oshkosh. So I can almost guarantee my presence there. However, my dad and I, if he's still up for it, we may still camp because it's kind of our thing.
You don't have to stay at the crash pad. Just know that it's there. This is not an open invitation for every single listener to come hang out at the crash pad, just so we're clear. I don't know if I put that much down for a damage deposit. So
yeah, the 2 of you listeners will have to flip a coin to see who.
Both of you will have to. Yeah, there's only so much room. So.
Well, my wife brought up a good point. If I'm in the Flying Midwest headquarters or whatever, and I'm not in Scholler, how am I going to go around and mingle with the people?
Yeah, you won't be able to Badger Camp Shoulder again.
Yeah.
So Badger is uninvited from the crash pad. Yeah. All right. He has work to do. Okay, Maddie?
Okay.
Don't feel sorry for him. Maddie, what's coming up on our next episode?
Our next episode is a solo episode. Get used to it. So we'll be talking a little bit about fighting the winter flying blues, which the farther north you get, the worse it is. How to stay engaged during the winter in aviation, and some ways to knock off the rust come spring, and some of our techniques and goofy things that we do.
The answer is not the first pancake breakfast you can find in flying it with you and all of your other spring chickens that have not flown.
Including your really great radios that definitely have not gotten worse as the winter months have progressed.
Yeah, you totally won't. You will not upset Martin Pauly at all.
Yep. And don't forget to like and subscribe and join us on Discord and Patreon. Discord members and patrons get exclusive access to watching us actually record these solo episodes for free. So by the time you hear that episode about fighting off the winter blues, you're already late to the game. We already recorded it, and our patrons and Discord members already got to see it and be a part of it. So to make sure you don't miss the next topic, or even provide feedback about what topic you want to hear about or your points of view on anything, make sure you email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com and get a link to the Discord, or even better, go join one of our mini tiers on Patreon.
Make sure if you don't want to support us financially, we don't blame you. However, what would be really cool and also free is rating and reviewing our podcast. So if you do kind of like what we do, please give us 5 stars and a lovely witty comment. Even if it's negative, you don't mind giving us 5 stars, for the algorithm. That would be really cool.
Well, this has been a lot of fun again. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Flying Midwest Podcast. And until next time,
see ya.
See ya.
See ya.
I think this is the first time that I haven't had the loudest see ya.
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35. Good day.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest Podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Flying Midwest Podcast. Here is your host from Anoka County Blaine Airport, Jim Schilling.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming. Thanks for coming out. I got a lot of stuff to talk to you about tonight. No, you're too kind. That's just too much. Just okay. Enough.
Wait, are you flying Cessnas in the club?
No, God, no.
Whew.
Low-end game for life.
Whew. Okay, just making sure.
There is a Cessna there. I could fly the Cessna. I am choosing to fly, wait for it, the Sundowner.
Oh, there's another
Or the Warrior, because I love the Warrior, too. What do you mean there's another one? They made more than one Sundowner.
Well, I had my buddy who should listen to the podcast. Zach, if you don't listen to this podcast, I'm going to fight you.
Well, Zach's not going to know if you
I'll send him this episode if he does.
Sounds like this is a sucker punch waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But
what was that for? I'm going to say something stupid, but at this point, you should all expect that by now.
So yeah, I think. What was that?
Yeah, I kind of like that.
It's a transition sound.
Transition number 2, to be exact. That's transition number 5. Ooh, it's got like a thunder or rumble to it. I told you, I found a button.
I do want everybody to know that I managed to time my news segment perfectly in between Badger segments to put in a pizza in the oven and take it out. So it was
pretty impressive.
Thank you. I literally had 20 seconds left on the clock when I walked out there.
We look forward to reconnecting with Nick and all of our other guests next year in 2025.
I think you just said it.
Fire today. Yeah, but I didn't mean it. It wasn't a heart fest. I mean, I was. I meant it. I want to see all the people. But...
The audience will know you didn't mean it now, because that is 100% getting played somewhere.
It's happening now. So something. No.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. What the hell would you both have to clear your throat when I start saying something really profound and important?
I'm sorry, I meant to be myself, and I didn't.
Super loud, super rude, insubordinate, and childish.
Oh my god!
I'm going to say something stupid, but at this point, you should all expect that by now.